뭔가 그 욕망을.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. I'm here with Gorilla after Kingzone Dragon X makes it to the finals. Gorilla, you have made your first international final now since 2015. What does it mean to you to finally be back in that final match?
2015년 후로 첫 결승 진출하셨는데 지금 소감 한마디 부탁드립니다.
네, 일단 이렇게 다시 좋은 기회를 얻게 돼서 되게 기쁘고요. 또 그 이후로 약간 해외대회 이제 결승전까지 갈 수 없다라는 그런 징크스도 있었지만 이렇게 깨게 돼서 되게 기쁜 것 같아요.
So I'm really glad to be qualified for the finals in the international tournament. Actually, there was kind of superstition that we couldn't make it to the finals, so we break it, and I'm so really happy to be here.
To be here. Well, I do want to ask you about that curse specifically. There were a lot of questions about Kingzone and this squads and you and Prey's preparation and mindset going into those best of fives of international tournaments. Do you feel like you've overcome all those struggles now going into tomorrow?
사실 국제 대회에서 킹존 실력에 대해서 약간 많은 논란이 있었어요. 근데 이제 모든 그 문제들을 극복하신 것 같은가요?
네, 오늘 물론 이기긴 했지만 저희가 약간 부족한 면이 보였다고 생각을 하고요. 저희가 이제 내일 바로 경기라서 오늘 가서 피드백을 좀 빨리 하고 좋은 경기력으로 다시 찾아뵐 수 있을 것 같아요.
Even if we have won today, actually I think we still have some mistakes. So with feedback today, afterwards when we get back, and we will try our best to show you some best performance tomorrow.
There's not that much time. You did win over the Flash Wolves today. They love every word you say. You know what? I'll first let you talk to the people here. They're cheering so much. Is there anything you want to say to them?
지금 팬들분에게 한마디 부탁드립니다.
네, 일단 이렇게 다시 유럽의 열기를 느끼게 돼서 되게 기쁘고요. 네, 저희 꼭 내일까지 좋은 모습 보여드릴 테니까 많은 응원 부탁드리겠습니다. I love you.
So he said, I'm so happy to feel this European energy back again, and we'll try our best to show you some good performance tomorrow.
Fantastic. Now, I do have to ask you one final question. At the beginning of the group stage, you told me we're gonna win. I talked to Uzi a couple of days ago. He said, I am ready to take that title. Gorilla, what can you say about your desire and your dream to win the title here in Paris tomorrow?
대회 시작할 때 이번에 우승한다고 말씀하셨는데 우지 선수도 이번 MSI 때 정말 우승을 하고 싶다고 인터뷰를 했어요. 지금 고릴라 선수의 정말 우승에 대한 욕망에 대해서 표현을 해주세요.
네, 뭐 일단 지고 싶은 마음은 절대 없고요. 네, 저희도 잘 준비해서 우지 선수를 한 번 더 눌러주고 싶네요. 네.
We don't think about losing at all. We really want to win, and I want to win against Uzi.
Fantastic. I love it, guys. One more time for Gorilla and Kingzone. Thank you very much. 감사합니다. Back over to you guys. Have the best.
Thank you very much, Shucks. The roar of the arena listening to Gorilla as he shoots, or rather tries for another international title here. Again, the storylines are set. The bot lane of Prey and Gorilla versus the bot lane of Uzi and Ming. All of these guys wanting to take home a title, an international title, prove their worth on the world stage. And here Kingzone answered a lot of questions against the Flash Wolves squad with a 3-1 victory here in our second semifinal.
And for me, it was really the effective depth of champion pool that Kingzone were able to carry out. People say that they can carry from every single position, but it's their ability that Khan can play the carries and the tanks. This is probably his best game, and he was on the Cho'Gath. It's the fact that BDD was able to absorb so many Aurelia bans and then just pulls out his signature Talia and has pressure exerted all across the map.
I do think, though, even though it was a tank pick, it was used in a different fashion. So often you see a person put on a tank so they can ignore it and so he can be there for team fighting, where this was specifically a Cho'Gath to create lane pressure and give them that advantage on the map, because I feel like games 1, 3, and 4 weren't necessarily won by team fighting. It was won because they could generate pressure in a side lane and use that to create advantages on the rest of the map.
It's going to be interesting to watch the two teams kind of go up against each other then tomorrow, because if we look at RNG as being the superior team fighting team and Kingzone perhaps playing the map and that pressure game better, I wonder how those two styles will interact.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that concerns me about Kingzone. I think today Flash Wolves ended up in at least game 3 and game 4 making way too many mistakes on their own, kind of giving big advantage over to Kingzone. Mujin is a great example from this game. Literally just like doing everything wrong level 1 he can possibly do. I don't think RNG will do the same.
Well, and let's talk about that then, because at the top of the day, again, you guys laid out kind of the 3 things that Flash Wolves did so well to get so many of those victories in the group stage, and one of those things was intelligent level 1s. And then in Game 4 of this series, Kingzone says, we're going to turn the level 1 back around on you with the invade.
And the thing is that RNG also don't do level 1 plays. Like, I don't want to speculate too much, but watching this iteration of Flash Wolves, there were so many times that they gave away priority lanes, that they had scaling compositions, that they were playing for a 5v5. I can't quite think who that reminds me of. It's RNG from yesterday. So while I understand that we don't expect RNG to play or make the individual mistakes that key members of Flash Wolves did today, stylistically, I actually think Flash Wolves looked a lot like what RNG attempted yesterday. So if that's how it's going to go, Kingzone just roll over that.
Right, that said, of course, I do want to work through kind of some of the key moments within this game. The first of which, again, is actually a replay in favor of the Flash Wolves coming at 16 minutes, 2-1 in the top. Their real big opportunity to perhaps turn this around. They find a sweet skirmish.
Yeah, this was them just trying hard to defend the turret. The Black Shield does come in for prey, and that was a difficulty the entire game, but this time they actually get the flank TP. This is the one time they were able to stop the pressure from Kingzone.
I am shocked that they're able to win this fight. Look at Betty. Yeah. He's completely locked out, and it is simply a hero play from Maple. Woo!
4-man taunt. That's insane.
But that's also the difference when Maple plays someone like Galio and Talia versus his Yasuo performance, which, again, I said at the very beginning, I didn't know if Maple was going to be able to match the carry or the dual threat potential that BDD brings. Maple went back to his supportive style, is still putting up huge plays like that, but I think that that was really the key difference here. It was a game of inches, and it wasn't able to grab that last one.
That's why I'm so sad about a game 3 with the Yasuo. I think it could have worked, but again, the things that ended up backfiring on him playing too aggressive when they shouldn't. So he's back on the Galio here, which actually is not even that great a pick when enemy already picked Talia. But they were just like, we have the Zyra Khan, we should pick a Galio, and we will just try and snowball from the early game. And then obviously they got put behind. So this was literally the last chance for them.
Right, yeah, that was their best attempt to climb out of the hole that they had found themselves in. I do want to roll through the final moments of this game as Kingzone found themselves with 3-1 victory over Flash Wolves to challenge RNG tomorrow in our MSI final.
Yeah, they'd already taken the Baron buff. You thought the game was actually going to end about 3 minutes prior, but just look at how massive Khan is on this Cho'Gath. They dump so much initiation into him, and he loses about 10% of his health. I mean, this is a fight where Vladimir actually gets the solo kill on Dupree. He dives through the entire team and gets it. And by the way, the rest of the fight actually isn't that close. Khan finishes him off. The rest of Kingzone is still pretty strong. The Trundle is also a monster in these fights, and they just clean it up.
And even little Betty plays his heart out trying to outplay here, but it was, what, an 11k gold difference at this point in the game using his flash, and they simply just don't have the gold or the items to make a difference.
And that's why you also got to feel bad for Betty specifically, because you highlighted there how he actually played extremely well in this series. And he was like on the Kai'Sa, they tried to get him fed in almost every single game. And then the last one here, he never got to really play League of Legends.
When is the last time you saw a Cho'Gath outdamage an Ezreal?
I'm going to say right now.
Ever?
I would say, yeah, right now.
Has that ever happened in a pro game?
That's a good question. We'll get some people on it, perhaps. But I do want to put a capper on this series so that we can kind of look forward and tease tomorrow's as well. But Flash Wolves, again, it was hit by the casters. The idea that this is a team that went 1-5 in groups in Worlds 2017, lost one of their star players, replaced with a couple rookies, bringing it into the roster. They come into this tournament. Everyone's projecting them 5th place at best, behind all of these other big regions. And they smash through the groups, opening up in a 6-0. Yes, they stumble a little bit, but they still show up here and push the Korean team to a degree that we don't see many do throughout history.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great story, coming from a region we don't normally look a lot at. But I think the big change was when KZ left the team, they had to find something else to play around. Mabel was not playing at his highest level last year, so they looked towards the bottom lane. Betty was a player who mechanically was very gifted from the start, but we had a lot of criticism for his positioning, his decision-making. If we go back a year, that has clearly gotten a lot better for him. So they have this lane. They can actually play around in the bot lane with 2 very, very strong players. And then you combine it with Mabel stepping up and, of course, Hanabi being quite an upgrade over good old MMD.
Yeah, I think Hanabi had a huge tournament as a rookie, pretty much a breakout for him on the international stage. And Flash Wolves refreshed that confidence that you can potentially have in them, because I think they lost a little bit failing to make it out of 2 Worlds group stages in a row, highlighted with last year. It's back though. Betty stepped up his game. They found an apt replacement for MMD. They've moved on from Stake no longer being their head coach, and they're set up for the future.
But you guys are saying every name but the super important one, and it's Sword Art.
He's always been
is
there.
right
Maybe
there.
Sword
Yeah,
Art's
that's the
been there.
consistent member.
But the fact that they that this was in meta, which was about the caster support, the melee support, like Sword Art can do it all. Playing through the bottom lane, setting up Betty, the amount of engages he had, the disengages, the saves, like Sword Art completely outclassed almost every single support in this tournament, maybe save for me.
I mean, I think we can all agree that Sword Art is world class and he's fantastic, but he was there last year when this team tanked completely. So I'm not saying that Sword Art got better and that's why Flash Wolves is better. I'm saying some of the changes that happened to how the team plays combined with how good Sword Art is, that is why Flash Wolves are good.
Right, let's put it in this perspective. As opposed to looking at it is where we are right now. Let's look at it for Worlds 2018. Again, the idea that this roster just halfway through the season with these young people that they've decided to put resources into and cultivate as young talent. I mean, the growth potential here and maybe what they could do if they find themselves in another best of 5, hey, say, come Worlds 2018. I mean, the hopes are high. The trajectory's there.
The trajectory is there, but I also have to be hesitant to say a team that does great in group stage and then loses the first best of 5 doesn't mean it's like, well, as soon as they get 3 more months experience, they're
Right.
world champions.
Absolutely.
Dash. Like they will probably be a threat to make it out of groups, but beyond that, I think the letdown at the second half of groups and here not being able to keep up with any of the pressure Kingzone has means they're still kind of who we thought they were.
Well, there's a lot of things for them at least to build upon. If they can go back and actually scrim the top LPL and LCK teams, which I'm not sure if they can always at least get to the LCK guys, but probably LPL, they used to have good scrim relationships in the past.
I'm saying they looked like RNG.
Hey, maybe they learned everything from RNG. If they can actually do that for the entire summer split, because their own region will not challenge them. Their own region will not help them whatsoever. But they're one of the few teams in the world who can actually get to scrim other world-class teams doing a split, which is a big advantage. And they can also play Korean solo queue. That's not the case for NA and EU.
Well, saying goodbye to the Flash Wolves as they made this tournament incredibly interesting for us. When your limits are tested on the big stage, it's challenging to maintain composure and take control of the series. But one pro from Kingzone really stood out, fight after fight, so that's why BDD has earned himself Player of the Series in this one.
And I know we were going back and forth on this, but ultimately for me, I just feel like BDD had to take it. The fact that his Aurelia had to be respected. It was permaban for the rest of the series. He came up big on the carry pick. He then showed up on his signature Talia, and his presence was felt everywhere across the map.
Yeah, really does play a pivotal role in that pressure game, and they actually, I think, unlocked the Talia pick because he was so good on Aurelia. I think Kingzone in general pulled out a couple of their trump cards here when they had to that they didn't show in the group stage. The fact that they're still willing to pick Jace, the fact that they can still counterpick the top lane, and the fact that they have this Aurelia with the Talia in their back pocket still keeps them as a formidable team.
Both teams going through, though, played the Aurelia. And so, again, when I'm looking at that, I'm just looking at that mid-matchup tomorrow. Yeah. The idea of Xiaohu versus BDD and, you know, what that's going to do to the draft. Because for Flash Wolves, the answer was, okay, we ban it. That's the only way we can deal with it. That's not the only option for RNG.
I mean, if you have a counter pick ready, you can maybe bait, the enemy team picks it, you have it locked in. I'm not sure what is a counter pick to Aurelia mid right now because we simply haven't seen the matchup enough. But the 2 players who've shown it probably already know. And if there's no counter, then you're going to have to ban it away.
I'm just a little bit concerned because BDD just seems on a completely different level than Xiaohu right now. He just doesn't have the same, I like the word that you use, pressure game. And BDD is so core to that and core to Kingzone and how they move around the map. Whereas I feel like Xiaohu is a bit more plug and play. It's still really built around Uzi.
Well, we'll be back to talk about it that series in just a moment. To get more insight, though, from this semifinal, let's send it back to Shox and the victorious top laner.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Khan, the top laner for Kingzone after making it to the final. Khan, Flash Wolves was a team that you guys didn't manage to beat in the group stage of MSI. What was the biggest difference coming into this match?
그룹 스테이지에서는 플래시 wolves랑 2대0으로 지셨는데 이번 경기에서는 뭐가 제일 달랐나요?
뭐 이제 저번에 곧 그 2경기 졌던 거는 그냥 저희가 문제점을 고치지 못했음에 이유가 있는 것 같고 이번에 이긴 이유는 그냥 단순히 저희가 평소에 자주 나오는 실수들이 고쳐졌기 때문에 이겼다고 생각해요.
So I think we couldn't win during the group stage because we didn't make it to adjust our mistakes, you know. But here we did that. We corrected everything. We could show our performance. That's why we won.
Speaking about mistakes and performance, very early on in the group stage, I spoke to you. You said you would give yourself a 3 out of 10 after those first games. It was a very up and down group stage for you. Where do you think you're at right now?
이제 그룹 스테이지 시작할 때 10점 만점에 3점이라고 그때 하셨는데 지금은 이제 어떻게 평가하세요?
이번 경기 4경기 다 포함한다면은 한 10점 만점에 한 7.5점 줄 수 있는 것 같아요.
Okay, so if you look at the 4 games of today, I would say it's 7.5.
7.5. Well, that begs the question. Tomorrow you're going up against RNG. How good will you guys have to play to be able to beat them? Because they seem to be on an absolute roll.
내일 RNG와 결승을 하게 되는데 지금 정말 잘하고 있어요. 그럼 내일 한 몇 점 정도 실력 나와야지 이길 수 있을까요?
뭐 저 자신한테 만족스러운 점수는 7점 정도면 만족스러운 것 같고 결승 무대이니만큼 좋은 모습 보여드리기 위해서 10점짜리 경기력을 보여줄 수 있도록 노력하겠습니다.
Actually, I'm satisfied about my performance when I reach a 7, but tomorrow I want to show a 10.
Ooh, a 10. Well, that should be scary for RNG. Fantastic. Thank you very much, 감사합니다. Congratulations. And back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shocks. A 7.5 today, hoping to give us a 10 tomorrow. What do you guys think?
I want to know what his rubric is. Because 3 to 7.5. He had a really great Cho'Gath game. I think that was definitely the standard. I ranked that around a 9. There's still the Camille game right in the middle. It's going to bring that rubric down pretty far. But
right. And we did get to see that all-important Jace pick, showing that he's still willing to pull it out here on the international stage. And, of course, as you mentioned, the Cho'Gath performance to close out the series, quite nice. Now, earlier we asked you who your MVP of the entire tournament was. And here are a few tweets that caught our attention. First up, Rowan felt while Uzi is the obvious choice, Betty from the Flash Wolves made enough clutch plays this tournament to be at least considered an MVP candidate.
I guess then the question is if you don't make the finals, can you take away the MVP? Because I do respect that Betty certainly stepped up, especially for the expectations or the rubric that we had for him, but he's still not in the finals.
It's also the question about MVP. Is it the most valuable player on your team or the best player overall? People tend to look at it differently. I think Betty was very important for Flash Wolves, but I think Sword Art and Mabel are right there next.
Yeah, you asked both those questions. Zeus is the answer for both of them. Like, I understand that it's worthy of recognizing Betty for playing great, but I don't think you talk to anyone who says it's not Uzi.
Talk to that guy.
All right, well, guess what?
He didn't even say it. He said he at least deserves to be in the conversation.
That's fair.
We had the conversation.
Well, sure, we had the conversation. He deserved
All right, well, next up, Joseph Kuba felt that Caps for sure delivered an incredible performance for Fnatic.
Same response. If you don't make the finals.
Okay, understanding that, then let's maybe talk about the player.
I think here, if you value it as, okay, who was the most important for their team to do well?
Thank you,
I think you can actually say Caps. Because this Fnatic team, especially in the group stages, they had almost nothing in the early game other than Caps and Broxa, mainly Caps. And then Caps was like, I'm 5-0 now. I will give some gold to the rest of my team. And he would walk around and smack everyone in the head.
But then you have...
I think he was so important.
You literally then have the other MVP candidate that we've talked about, Uzi, who gets thrown.
Guys,
like he throws
let me
the game
get
to
there.
Caps.
So Caps,
Please, I have a script.
yeah, Caps was actually super good.
He was
The
He's
one
very good.
thing that could have actually propelled him over Uzi is to bring his isolated deaths way down.
Yep.
Because he had what? He had 11 going into the
He was
knockout
number
stage,
one.
and then moved into number 1 because he died a lot.
He wanted to be number 1 in everything, and he managed to do that.
It is still one of the main criticisms
Action
we've had
score.
from him throughout the tournament, right? Eliminating those individual mistakes with his growth as a young player looking to be a main carry for Fnatic. Finally, I can't read that top line, so something about salty sailors. I mentioned we received a flood of tweets. It's worth noting that a large majority of them were, no surprise, for the RNG ADC.
Yeah.
Say it with me.
Good job,
Uzi.
large majority. That's not what
I
we're going
hate
for.
you guys so
Nice.
much right now.
I thought for sure we were...
Now you talk about Uzi.
Why Uzi?
Right?
think it should be
Who's that guy?
valuable.
All right, no, but really.
Highest damage percentage in group stage history. Over 6 kills a game, double-digit ahead of the next closest, undefeated in the knockout stage. Won his first title in the LPL, even though that's not important.
I take it back. Stop talking about Uzi.
Wins every lane,
He does
no
win
matter what he
every
plays.
lane. Well, this makes me feel like tomorrow, you know, is such a lopsided matchup. You heard the casters talk about it at the conclusion of this series, that a lot of people might be looking at tomorrow's series as an RNG favorite series. Do you align with that opinion?
Not really.
No.
I'm expecting a huge clash of different styles because RNG can actually play up tempo. They didn't necessarily do it against Fnatic, but it's more about bottom lane focus versus mid-top lane focus because Kingzone abandoned that bottom lane today and just let Prey and Gorilla absorb until they could get pressure, whereas I still expect RNG to play some type of bot lane focus.
They most likely will, and it's interesting because Kingzone managed to get some early leads today against Flash Wolves, but not because they were like overly forcing it. Like a lot of it was actually Flash Wolves also making some big mistakes, except for maybe the Jace game, where we had a lot of focus on getting him ahead. So RNG, if you look at their games against Fnatic, they fell behind in every single one of them. They did not try and win the early game super hard. I wonder if Kingzone can do that and will do it, because if they get a goal lead, they're good enough to close out games and get Barons. If it's completely even, RNG will get to their team fights, and then I think it's in their favor.
Is that not the scariest thing about RNG? I heard the piece of commentary throughout the cast that so many of the games throughout this tournament, once a lead was established, we very rarely saw the comebacks mounted. But RNG seems like one of those teams that you can never count out, because at any moment they take the skirmish at a deficit, and yet they still win it.
They're very good at playing from behind. It happened a lot domestically in the LPL. Again, RNG were one of 2 super teams that we had in the LPL, the other one being Invictus Gaming. And it was Invictus Gaming that would often play a very similar style to Kingzone, where they'd run away with the first 50 minutes. Not as pressure-based, more lane-based, but RNG had to go through Kingzone. They also had to go through Snake, another high-tempo team, as well as Team WE, who got massive leads, and then RNG just sat back and recognized that they could team fight better. So the gauntlet that they played to get here pretty much trained them perfectly for this type of style.
And we've also seen the teams play each other twice now. The first game, Kingzone runs away with it. The second game, however, Kingzone gets the early advantage and then lose effectively every single skirmish and team fight. Uzi's on that KZ, dancing around. They never lock him down with Camille, Galio, like insane combination. And Uzi ends up carrying that game. So we've seen both examples. One where Kingzone gets ahead and wins, and the other one where they get ahead, but then lose fights to RNG. We've seen them both.
Yeah, by tomorrow during predictions, I'm going to be able to tell you why definitively one team will definitely win, Dash.
Great, I can't wait for that.
But right now, I am just excited to watch it, because even the first pick and ban phase, I think, is extremely hard to predict. We saw today Kingzone banning out 3 junglers while leaving Trundle and Olaf up, when at the start of the tournament, those were the 2 junglers you would ban, if any. And I just feel like there's so much flexibility between both teams. I think the champion pool is completely shared amongst both teams.
All right,
so
well,
the
stage is set. With their win today, Kingzone have earned their spot in the final, where they will face Uzi and RNG. It all comes down to one final best of 5 to crown the champion of MSI. So now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for the conclusion of MSI 2018.
We've heard from interviews that it seems the early game matters a lot more here in this tournament.
In the late game, or in the mid to late game, as items come together, he's going to tip it all.
Has the reason.
Looking for more in the fight. Infinity re-engages, gets number 3, gets number 4. They're all dead. Blood from the re-engage. Unstoppable, but Peanut is running away. The train still comes in. They've knocked down Prey 3 kills in a row in this fight. Looking for the kill here. Is it going to be enough damage? The Gorilla goes to kite back and build some more time. They've only got the kill back on a sword up, but it's still a 2 for 0. Reaches in for Prey. Ezreal might just stay alive, though. Hemoflex, no, is still enough. A double kill. Make it a triple. They're all falling. Kingzone giving up their base. Engage, now yet the knockup jumps to a ward. Found out though, and Prey will knock down the Godfist as the Barons get lower. They finally pick it up. They've isolated Sion, he will drop, and there's going to be the backline access. Killer Instinct did what Maple could not. This is the huge fight for Flashwolf, but it might just not be enough. The turrets to fall. Here's the kicks to the backline, but can they find the kills? Betty trying to kite, and he doesn't have it. Here comes Galio, but it's not in time as Sword Art has fallen. A big 4-man taunt! Can he knock down Prey? Oh, and with Vladimir they get 2! The turrets are already dead. He's not arranged for the redemption. The re-engage not gonna happen. 2 more close teamed up for Kingzone. Kingzone, in a return to form, will take the 3-1 victory over Flash Wolves.